What was the blessing that Abraham was passing to Isaac and Isaac passed to Jacob and Jacob continuously like that? What was that blessing? Now, you think it was wealth, but when Esau missed the blessing, Esau was still wealthy. We used to think that the blessings that was passed was money, it was wealth, it was this and that. But it was the testimony of Jesus. How did I know? When God told Abraham, I'll bless you and you will be a blessing, what God testified for Abraham was that God was going to raise the dead, which was God was going to raise Jesus. Visit the teaching understanding scriptures for you to know this. And God told Abraham, these things I'm about to do, say to you now, you will pass it from generation to generation. You will tell your children will tell your children. So what is that thing? What is that blessing that the father passed to the children? It was the testimony of Jesus, which was the righteousness that Abraham received without works, which was the righteousness that Abraham received by just believing. So immediately Abraham was about dying, he passed it to Isaac. It was a secret they passed to Isaac. Isaac passed it to Jacob. What were they passing down? It was just the testimony of Jesus they were passing from one generation to another. You can imagine when it was just something they were passing from one generation to another. And presently now it is something we are heralding everywhere. That's why the Bible called them a great cloud of witness. Please go and listen to Understanding Scriptures to understand more about this. The Bible called them the great cloud of witness. It was not wealth, because if it was wealth, wealth was not the promise God gave Abraham. Because the Bible says they died not receiving the promise. What was being passed? It was faith, 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 faith. The blessings that was being passed was faith. Faith in what? In Jesus that was coming. In the sacrifice of Jesus that was coming. The Bible says because of this, God could overlook the sins of those in the past. God was no longer counting sins against them. David testified of the blessedness of a man in whom God is not counting sins. That was the blessings they were passing. They were not passing any other thing than Jesus. And that was why there was a possible genealogy. Because what was the father telling the son for the son to tell the son? It was not wealth, it was words. And we understood that faith comes by hearing. It was after Jacob was told about the blessing that Jacob had an encounter that radically transformed his life. I hope this helps shed more light on the scriptures. Bye.